How to make yourself happy. In recent years, as society continues to evolve, modern individuals face increasing pressure in their lives. In this fast-paced, high-pressure environment, our psychological well-being and emotional state have gradually begun to show various issues. Some people carry severe negative energy, remaining constantly dejected and down, complaining endlessly about trivial matters, and even falling into serious depression. Others are particularly irritable, like walking powder kegs, ready to explode at the slightest provocation, frequently flying into a rage at the smallest disagreement. Then there are those who struggle with intense self-doubt and suspicion, constantly questioning themselves and others, feeling completely worthless. While many of us have encountered these psychological and emotional challenges, we often don't know how to effectively address and resolve them. Over time, these issues may develop into psychological disorders, not only causing personal distress but also affecting family members and friends around us. The author, Albert Ellis, is known as the father of Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, REBT, and the pioneer of cognitive behavioral therapy. In the United States and Canada, he is recognized as the second most influential applied psychologist, ranking above Freud. His creation, REBT, is widely applicable, highly practical, and notably effective. It's one of the most commonly used therapeutic approaches in psychological counseling and is a mandatory subject in national qualification exams for psychological counselors. This book focuses on three key aspects. 1. What is rational emotive behavior therapy? What are its core principles? 2. How can irrational thoughts be transformed into rational, healthy thinking? 3. How can we challenge irrational thoughts through our actions to improve our emotional state? REBT consists of three main elements, A, B, and C. A represents adversity and obstacles. For example, despite your desire to succeed in studies, work, or relationships, the reality falls short of expectations. B represents your beliefs, particularly irrational ones, such as feelings of inevitable failure or rejection. For instance, thoughts like, nobody likes me, I'm not good enough, I can't fail, or failure means the end. C represents the consequences, anxiety, depression, and negative behaviors resulting from these adversities and irrational thoughts. For example, dropping out of school, being afraid to look for jobs, quitting competitions midway, or avoiding social activities. Rational emotive behavior therapy suggests that while negative outcomes, the C part, appear to stem from setbacks or obstacles, your specific thoughts and beliefs, the B part, are actually more crucial. This is where we should focus our attention. The author believes that when your goals face resistance, if your response is merely a general tendency or desire, you'll experience unpleasant but healthy emotions like regret, disappointment, or self-dissatisfaction. These emotions aren't truly negative. They can transform into motivation for future efforts. However, if you push too hard and turn wishes into absolute demands, it can strain your mental and physical well-being, leading to unhealthy, destructive negative emotions and unfavorable outcomes. In such situations, first acknowledge that these thoughts are unreasonable, what REBT calls irrational thoughts. Challenge these thoughts until you transform these compulsive demands into healthy, rational thoughts or desires. Let's take an example. Lauren was a talented and successful fashion designer. When her husband left her, she became deeply worried and depressed, calling herself a failure. She even began doubting her professional abilities, unknowingly falling into severe depression. During treatment, the author first helped her stop labeling herself as a failure, teaching her to accept herself while acknowledging her depression and anxiety. The author emphasizes this crucial principle of REBT: judge actions, not people, evaluate your behaviors, not your inherent worth. After accepting reality, Lauren eventually abandoned the notion that she had to be a perfect wife and perfect designer. She overcame her depression and anxiety while maintaining her physical health. Her conclusion was, no matter how I perform, nothing can truly make me a failure. I don't need to be successful to deserve a place in this world. This first key point explains what REBT is. Now, let's discuss the second key point: how to transform irrational thoughts into healthy, rational ones. First, learn to accept yourself unconditionally. We're all imperfect and make mistakes or worry about making them. It's normal and healthy to feel regret and dissatisfaction after making mistakes. However, the author advises that while you can acknowledge making mistakes or foolish decisions, don't label yourself as a fool or idiot. In other words, avoid hastily judging your character. For instance, if you didn't study for an important exam, thinking not studying for such an important exam was foolish is healthy. but concluding, therefore, I'm an idiot, or worse, because of my stupid behavior, I've become a fool, I'm completely worthless, and I don't deserve happiness. That's where you've gone astray. This is the root of unnecessary distress. Objectively, such conclusions are absurd. Life isn't just about exams. You do many other things. Clearly, you're not a fool, nor are you worthless in every aspect. Finally, learn to accept others unconditionally, similar to accepting yourself unconditionally. You can dislike what others do or fail to do, but you can't demand perfection from them, impose your views on them, or deny their existence because of behaviors you disapprove of. Take John, for instance. One day on his subway commute, he became irritated by a young woman loudly chewing gum next to him. John thought her behavior was extremely rude in such a crowded space and concluded she must be an ill-mannered person who deserved to be kicked off the train, and he wanted to be the one to do it. Through Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, REBT, John realized his thinking was too harsh. He came to accept that the young woman was simply a human being with flaws who made mistakes. While her behavior in public wasn't appropriate, she still had the right to live her life happily. Consider Adam, a sales manager who frequently berated others with anger and took pride in his aggressive style. He viewed everyone else as fools and believed harsh criticism was the only way to solve problems. Unfortunately, his constant anger led to high blood pressure and severe headaches from being in a perpetual state of tension. After receiving REBT counseling, Adam discovered that others weren't hurting him. His own irrational, harsh judgments were causing the most damage. Once he accepted this perspective, his headaches and high blood pressure disappeared, replaced by a sense of peace and calm. The author believes that abandoning anger and harsh judgment while accepting others unconditionally greatly improves quality of life and brings inner peace. This approach leads to deeper friendships, better collaboration, enhanced creativity, better health, and longer life. Finally, changing your mindset requires accepting reality and facing setbacks calmly. Life is challenging for everyone. From cradle to grave, we face countless hardships, torments, and troubles. What can we do to prevent anger and depression when facing life's difficulties? The only answer is to face them bravely without viewing them as torments. This isn't about self-deception. REBT acknowledges that troubles will always exist. We can't choose or change them. We can only choose whether to respond with negative emotions. Remind yourself that setbacks are normal and universal. Accept unpleasant realities while continuously dispelling fear, anxiety, and avoidance. Only then can you live undisturbed. The author illustrates this with Tom's story. As a child, Tom was sexually abused by his brother, physically abused by his alcoholic father, and neglected by his mother. Growing up in this troubled family, he struggled academically and was often called stupid by classmates. Until age 27, Tom remained deeply depressed about his tragic circumstances, feeling sorry for himself and bitter. These emotions disrupted his work, relationships, and personal life, creating a downward spiral. After receiving REBT, Tom learned to forgive his father, brother, and mother, accepting them as imperfect humans with flaws. While accepting them, he began facing his own destiny. He realized that complaining wouldn't solve anything. Taking action to build his future was the better path. After adjusting his emotions and mindset, Tom began a new chapter in life. In conclusion, the author believes we shouldn't exaggerate obstacles, overgeneralize, or blindly label ourselves, others, or reality. For example, we shouldn't say, "I can't do it. I'm stupid, he's bad. The world is scary." These are examples of unhelpful self-talk. Instead, focus on evaluating your actions and whether they align with your goals and objectives. Avoid making sweeping judgments about your character, life, essence, or entire being. This approach should extend to how you view yourself, others, and the world. Focus on actions and behaviors, not personal judgments. How can we transform irrational thoughts into rational, healthy ones? How can we challenge these irrational thoughts through actions to improve our feelings and behaviors? Beyond changing our mindset and attitude, behavioral changes are essential. Even if it's uncomfortable, change is necessary because irrational thoughts may have become habitual. To break free from harmful habits, you need to establish new, better habits, embrace them, and prove to yourself that you can change regardless of the challenges. First, try taking calculated risks. The author once worked with a patient who feared job interviews, convinced he would perform terribly and appear nervous in front of interviewers. Under the author's guidance, he challenged himself to attend 20 interviews in 1 month, even for positions he felt unqualified for. While not all interviews were successful, he learned a valuable lesson. rejection wasn't catastrophic. Through this process, he gained valuable interview experience and eventually found his ideal job. Second, use reinforcement techniques, which are effective for treating procrastination. B.F. Skinner, the father of behavioral therapy, suggested that if you're reluctant to do something beneficial, force yourself to complete it before engaging in easier or more enjoyable activities. If you need to spend an hour daily on a project but keep procrastinating, promise yourself a reward after completing the task, like reading, exercising, or chatting with friends. You can also use punishment measures to complete challenging tasks. For severe addictions to alcohol, cigarettes, or drugs, where reward systems might not be effective, consider implementing consequences. For example, force yourself to eat unpleasant foods or do tedious chores. If these punishments aren't effective, consider extreme measures. For quitting smoking, you might touch the lit end to your tongue or give $100 to a stranger each time you smoke. Technical training can help reduce life's frustrations and increase happiness. In interpersonal relationships, one of the most useful skills is using non-commanding, calm, and confident language. This increases your assertiveness while showing respect for others, making your requests more likely to be accepted. Achieving these mental and behavioral changes requires more than just conviction, confidence, and willpower. It demands persistent patience and practice. While these strategies address immediate concerns, maintaining an optimistic outlook requires examining fundamental life perspectives. For instance, cultivating a spirit of relentless pursuit in your career and actively striving for progress can significantly improve your mental outlook. As they say, boredom and emptiness are the greatest killers of the spirit, but having a focused career pursuit can transform your life. Your life will become more fulfilling, enjoyable, and rewarding, preventing you from falling into laziness and emptiness. For instance, try developing personal hobbies. Healthy interests can effectively help us relieve negative emotions, such as fitness, running, gardening, pet care, or becoming an enthusiast in photography or audio equipment. Actually, any of these works. These hobbies might not have significant social value, but they can help you achieve emotional relaxation. If you don't have any hobbies, at least go out regularly, participate in social activities, and make new friends. Don't stay cooped up at home overthinking things. Only by frequently stepping out and maintaining close contact with society can you find genuine happiness. The author also reminds us not to go to extremes when pursuing self-actualization. Moderation is key. When you're too focused on getting what you want, you might ignore others, invite their hostility and resistance, and harm the collective interests. As the saying goes, success at the expense of all else is no success at all. This kind of extreme pursuit of personal value should be avoided. Moreover, self-worth must be about what you truly need, not just about gaining others' approval. Some people might dedicate themselves to pursuing what others want them to do rather than what they truly want. This is a misconception that should be avoided. Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy suggests that your anxiety, depression, and other negative emotions seemingly stem from setbacks and obstacles, but actually come from your irrational thoughts when facing these challenges. Your task is to transform these irrational thoughts into healthy, rational mindsets, converting must-do, oppressive, and compulsive thinking into gentle wishes and inclinations. This is the fundamental principle of rational emotive behavior therapy. To achieve this transformation, you must first unconditionally accept yourself, others, and the objective world. This doesn't mean burying your head in the sand, but rather not overemphasizing obstacles, avoiding overgeneralization, and not labeling yourself. View the world's imperfections objectively, including your own, and face obstacles and setbacks calmly. Always focus on the action, not the person. Evaluate whether your methods are correct and if there's room for improvement. Don't judge your personality, your life, or your essence. Be kind to yourself, others, and the objective world. Sometimes, irrational thoughts might have become habitual, and mere attitude changes aren't enough to transform them. In such cases, to break free from these harmful habits, you need to establish new, better behavioral habits, embrace them, and prove to yourself that you can change regardless of difficulties. The author's suggestions include taking risks, forcing yourself out of your comfort zone to meet new challenges, and implementing self-disciplinary mechanisms. Additionally, seek a healthier and more positive life attitude by developing personal interests, focusing on career advancement, being more considerate of others' feelings, and finding a partner who accepts and embraces you. All these will significantly benefit your emotional and psychological well-being.